If I told you that most women are ruining their lives not because of the wrong men they choose, but because of the type of men they desire, would you believe me? Because what I'm about to say will challenge every romantic fantasy you've been conditioned to believe. Today, I'm going to expose a truth most people are too scared to admit. Not every older man deserves your attention, your body, or your energy, and the one you think you want might be the one silently destroying your standards, your self-worth, and your emotional clarity. And if you don't understand this, you will keep repeating the same painful cycle with different faces. Listen carefully. There is only one type of older man a woman should ever allow that level of intimacy with. One. And it has nothing to do with looks, money, status, confidence, or charm. In fact, the men who appear the most desirable on the surface are often the ones with the emptiest souls. The real danger is not a toxic man. It's a mature, looking man with a childish mind, a man with years behind him but zero growth within him. That is the man who drains you while convincing you he's elevating you. But the man worth your desire, the man worth your vulnerability, the man worth your body, operates on a level most women have never experienced. And once you understand what sets him apart, you will stop giving yourself to men who haven't earned the privilege of accessing you. So stay with me until the very end, because once you hear this truth, you will never look at older men the same way again. And you will never allow the wrong one to touch your life or your body ever again. Most older men are just older boys, and this is the part people refuse to accept. We live in a world where age automatically gets mistaken for wisdom, maturity, or leadership, but time alone does not transform a man. Only conscious evolution does. A man does not become mature just because the years have passed. He becomes mature when he has confronted the parts of himself most men run from. And the reason women are underwhelmed by most older men today is because age has given them numbers, not depth, experience, not transformation. Stories, not character. You can be 40, 50, 60 years old and still behave like someone who never learned how to regulate his emotions, who never developed emotional responsibility, who still blames the world for his pain and expects relationships to fix what he refuses to heal. And women feel this instantly. They feel when a man has grown older but not wiser, when his life is long but not deep. There is something instinctive in women that senses emotional immaturity even before they can describe it. His tone, his reactions, his defensiveness, his lack of clarity, it all exposes him. And here is where most men misunderstand attraction. Women do not seek an older man because he's older. They seek him because they assume he has evolved. They assume he has gathered insight, not insecurity. They assume he has learned discipline, not desperation. They assume life has humbled him, not hardened him. But when they meet him and realize he's carrying the same teenage wounds, the same fear of rejection, the same need for approval, the same inability to communicate with honesty and calmness, the disappointment is immediate and irreversible. Because nothing is more unattractive than a man whose age implies maturity he simply does not possess. Emotional maturity is not automatic, it is earned. It comes from accountability, from self-reflection, from learning how to sit alone with your thoughts instead of distracting yourself with temporary pleasure or superficial attention. It comes from understanding that impulsiveness is not passion, that anger is not strength, that avoidance is not peace. The tragedy is that many men grow older before they realize who they should have become. And by then, they wonder why women feel disconnected from them, why they don't feel respected or desired in the way they imagined, why their presence does not command the room the way they fantasized it would. An older boy is a man who never grew emotionally past the moment life first wounded him. He continues reacting from the same place, using age as a shield but never using wisdom as a tool. He wants admiration but hasn't earned self-respect. He wants loyalty but lacks reliability. He wants peace but creates chaos. He wants a feminine woman, but has never built the masculinity required to make her feel secure enough to be one. And the truth is, women don't resent these men. They simply detach from them. Women do not want to mother a man. They do not want to manage him emotionally. They do not want to teach him how to be stable. A woman's attraction collapses the moment she feels she has become the adult in the dynamic. This is why the truly desirable older man is not defined by his age but by his evolution. He is the man who has looked at his patterns and understood why they existed. The man who does not hide behind ego because he has nothing to prove. The man who is comfortable with silence, comfortable with responsibility, comfortable with discomfort. He is the older man who has outgrown the need to be validated. His emotional center is not shaken by women, by competition, or by life's unpredictability, because he has done the inner work to understand who he is and what he stands for. Women are drawn to this man not because he's older, but because he's grounded. The irony is that true maturity is invisible until a man opens his mouth. His language reveals everything: how he thinks, how he interprets the world, how he responds to pressure, how he navigates disagreement, how he carries himself in moments of conflict. A mature man doesn't silence a woman, he listens. He doesn't control her, he leads. He doesn't react, he responds. And this is why such men are rare. This level of maturity requires effort, and most men avoid effort when they think age alone will earn them respect. But respect is not inherited, it is cultivated. Desire is not automatic, it is created. Masculinity is not granted, it is built. And the older man women deeply desire is not an accident. He is the outcome of conscious evolution, consistent discipline, and emotional courage. So if there is one truth to take from this, let it be: this age will add years to your life, but maturity will add value to your presence. And only one of those makes you unforgettable. When we talk about the older man women truly desire, we're not talking about the loud one, the flashy one, or the one trying to prove something. Women are not drawn to noise. They're drawn to presence. And presence is not something you perform. It's something you become. It's something that radiates from a man who has built himself internally long before life ever rewarded him externally. The type of older man we're speaking about doesn't need attention because he has mastered something far more powerful: attention from within. His self-command is the gravity that pulls people in. His calmness is the energy that makes women feel safe without him saying a single word. His silence isn't emptiness, it's depth. Most men misunderstand presence. They think it's confidence. They think it's charisma. They think it's dominance. But presence is none of these. Presence is the byproduct of inner alignment. It's emotional clarity. It's the ability to be fully here, fully conscious, fully anchored without being pulled by insecurities, impulses, or external validation. A man like this doesn't chase attention because he doesn't need it. He does not enter a room trying to impress. He enters a room already impressed by nothing. And that's exactly what makes him magnetic. Women feel it immediately. A man who has mastered himself emits a different type of energy. He's not easily provoked. He's not easily shaken. He's not constantly explaining himself, defending himself, or trying to dominate anyone. His confidence is quiet, but it is not fragile. His mind is disciplined, but it is not rigid. His emotional world is steady, but it is not shut down. And this balance is what separates him from every other older man pretending to be masculine while drowning inside his own unresolved chaos. You must understand something: women are not seeking intensity, they are seeking stability. They are not seeking a man who performs confidence. They want a man who is confident. They don't want the man who speaks loudly. They want the man whose energy speaks for him. Because presence is not volume. It's vibration. It's a frequency that can only come from a man who has disciplined his thoughts, healed his emotional wounds, and found purpose beyond ego. When a man has presence, he doesn't just walk into a room, he changes the emotional temperature of that room. People feel calmer around him. Conversations slow down around him. Women feel more feminine in his presence because his groundedness allows their softness to surface naturally. And the reason women desire him is simple. He makes them feel safe in a world that constantly overwhelms them. Not because he tries to, but because he is safe internally. He is emotionally regulated. He does not live in reaction. He does not crumble under pressure. He does not explode when challenged. He does not negotiate his values for approval. Women can sense when a man's mind is his own. They can sense when he's not easily manipulated. They can sense when he cannot be emotionally hijacked. And this emotional independence is what makes him so desirable. He cannot be controlled because he has mastered control of himself. He cannot be intimidated because he is not performing masculinity for anyone. He cannot be replaced because what he offers cannot be found easily. Peace in a human form. Presence also means a man has nothing to hide. He is not running from himself. He is not pretending to be someone he isn't. He knows his flaws, and he has done the work to transform them. He knows his strengths, and he does not weaponize them. He knows his value, and he doesn't need anyone to confirm it. And this authenticity is what makes his presence unforgettable. You feel the weight of his truth even when he doesn't speak. A man with presence is not interested in being liked, he is interested in being real. And that realness becomes a magnet for a woman who is tired of games, tired of inconsistency, tired of emotional instability disguised as passion. She wants the man who brings clarity. She wants the man who brings direction. She wants the man whose presence gives her permission to relax into her feminine self, because she knows he can hold the space without collapsing. This type of man is rare not because he is gifted, but because he is disciplined. He has spent years becoming emotionally strong instead of emotionally loud, mentally sharp instead of mentally scattered, spiritually centered instead of spiritually lost. And it is this inner mastery that makes him the only type of older man who truly captivates women. Not with his age, but with his energy. So if there's one thing to understand from this, it's this: presence cannot be purchased, performed, or forced. It can only be earned by mastering the person you see in the mirror. And when a man achieves that level of inner alignment, his presence becomes the kind of power that no one can ignore and no woman can forget. When we talk about the type of older man women truly desire, we have to address something most people avoid. Women are not searching for excitement. They are searching for emotional safety. Not safety in the sense of comfort or dependency, but safety in the sense of stability, clarity, and consistency. Safety in the sense of being with a man who does not become another source of stress in a world already overflowing with responsibilities, expectations, and emotional demands. And this is the part many men fail to understand. Women are not tired of love, they are tired of chaos. They are tired of relationships that feel like emotional survival exercises. They are tired of men who bring unpredictability instead of peace, confusion instead of direction, and emotional storms instead of emotional intelligence. A woman's attraction shifts instantly the moment she senses instability in a man. She doesn't have to analyze it. She doesn't need evidence. She feels it. His tone, his temperament, his impulsiveness, his reactive nature, everything reveals whether he is a man who can handle life or a man who expects her to handle him. And nothing kills attraction faster than becoming responsible for a man's emotional state. Women do not want to regulate a man's feelings, manage his moods, decode his insecurities, or stabilize his chaos. They want a man who stabilizes himself. They want a man who can maintain calm under pressure, not collapse under it. A man who navigates his emotions instead of being ruled by them. This is why emotional safety matters so much. Women are not drawn to older men because they expect perfection. They are drawn to them because they expect emotional maturity. They assume he has lived enough life to understand himself. They assume he has healed enough wounds to stop projecting them onto others. They assume age has allowed him to develop discipline over his impulses, clarity over his confusion, and wisdom over his ego. But when they encounter an older man who is still emotionally chaotic, the disappointment cuts deeper. Because chaos in a young man feels like immaturity, chaos in an older man feels like failure. And you cannot build attraction on top of emotional instability. You cannot build trust with someone whose reactions shift from minute to minute. A man who has not mastered emotional regulation cannot offer security. And a man who cannot offer security cannot create desire. Women want the man who brings peace, not disruption. The man who knows how to de-escalate, not escalate. The man who communicates with honesty, not defensiveness. The man who listens before reacting. The man who resolves problems instead of amplifying them. The older man women desire is the one who doesn't weaponize his emotions. He doesn't use anger to dominate, silence to punish, or mood swings to manipulate. His emotional world is steady because he has spent years understanding himself, correcting himself, challenging himself. He has learned how to think before he speaks, how to breathe before he reacts, how to observe before he judges. And this emotional discipline is what makes him feel safe to a woman. Because emotional safety is not about being soft or passive. It's about strength with control. It's about power with restraint. It's about a man who can express himself without losing himself. A man who can stand firm without being aggressive. A man who can set boundaries without being threatened. A man who can lead without overpowering. That is the emotional containment women crave, masculinity that is stable, not volatile. And here's the deeper truth. When a woman feels emotionally safe with a man, she becomes more feminine, more open, more affectionate, more expressive. Emotional safety unlocks her softness. It unlocks her trust. It unlocks her desire. Because women do not flourish in chaos, they survive in chaos. A woman becomes the fullest version of herself only when the man she is with carries the kind of steadiness that allows her to relax into her authentic nature. Most men think women want passion, but passion without emotional stability feels like danger, not attraction. Most men think women want confidence, but confidence without emotional discipline feels like ego, not leadership. Most men think women want dominance, but dominance without emotional intelligence feels like control, not protection. Emotional safety is the foundation that makes every other masculine quality attractive. Without it, nothing stands. This is why emotional stability is the most desirable trait in an older man. It's the quality that differentiates him from younger men, from unhealed men, from insecure men, from reactive men. It's the quality that makes a woman trust him, respect him, desire him, and surrender to the connection without fear of losing herself in the process. So the message is simple. If a man wants to be irresistible, unforgettable, and truly desired, he must master the one thing most men never develop: emotional stability. Because when a man becomes peace within himself, he becomes the safest place a woman can land. And the truth is, the world is full of older men, but very few who make a woman feel safe. Become one of the few. When we talk about attraction, people love to oversimplify it. They assume women choose older men because of money, or looks, or status. But anyone who has spent even a moment studying human psychology knows that attraction runs deeper than anything physical. True attraction is rooted in alignment, mental alignment, emotional alignment, spiritual alignment. It comes from a man's internal architecture, not the image he presents to the world. Women are not drawn to the older man who has lived more years. They are drawn to the older man who has lived with intention. The man who has examined his flaws, confronted his shadows, built values instead of excuses, and developed a purpose that shapes every part of how he moves through the world. Most men think attraction is about what a woman sees, but attraction is about what a woman feels. And she feels the difference between a man who has simply aged and a man who has evolved. She feels the difference between a man who has grown bitter and a man who has grown wiser. She feels the difference between a man who has been shaped by life and a man who has been strengthened by it. It's not the appearance of maturity that draws her in. It's the reality of it. Women crave alignment because alignment reveals a man's inner world. And the truth is, the older man who has done the inner work radiates a different kind of energy. His actions match his words, his values match his decisions. His boundaries match his character. He is internally coherent, and people feel that coherence long before they understand it. A woman will choose this man over a million shallow options because her soul recognizes the stability in him. His alignment tells her he can be trusted, not because he's perfect, but because he's integrated. He is not ruled by his impulses. He is not driven by his ego. He is not controlled by insecurity. He has outgrown the need to prove himself. And this internal solidity is what makes him stand out in a world full of men who rely on external features, money, age, charm, or appearance, to compensate for a lack of depth. But attraction built on image is fragile. Attraction built on alignment is unbreakable. A man who is aligned with his values lives with a sense of direction that women can feel instantly. He doesn't wander through life waiting for circumstances to shape him. He shapes his own life with purpose. He makes decisions from a place of clarity. He stands by his principles even when it costs him. And this integrity is what makes him irresistible, not because he talks about his values, but because he embodies them. Women are not looking for a man who sounds noble. They want the man who behaves nobly when no one is watching. They want the man whose character is consistent, not conditional. There is also something profoundly magnetic about a man who has faced his own darkness. A man who has done the inner work carries a quiet confidence that cannot be faked. He knows what he's capable of, and he knows what he refuses to become. He has confronted his own shortcomings and grown through them. He has dismantled the emotional walls that once limited him. He has turned his pain into wisdom, his failures into discipline, his mistakes into lessons. And because he has journeyed into the depth of his own soul, he can meet a woman with emotional depth instead of emotional avoidance. Women feel safe with a man like this because they know he is not afraid of tough conversations, difficult emotions, or uncomfortable truths. He doesn't shut down. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't deflect. He doesn't hide. He has clarity not because life was easy, but because life demanded that he uncover who he truly is. Alignment makes him predictable in the best possible way, not boring, but trustworthy, not passive, but intentional, not detached, but deeply connected to his purpose. This is why true attraction can't be forced. You cannot fake alignment. You cannot fake maturity. You cannot fake values. You cannot fake inner strength. These things reveal themselves naturally in a man's energy, his choices, his communication, and his response to adversity. Attraction rooted in authenticity is powerful because authenticity is rare, and the older man who has aligned himself with purpose, values, and self-awareness becomes rare in the most desirable way. Women do not want the older man who tries to impress them. They want the man whose life itself is impressive. They want the man whose presence feels intentional, whose character feels stable, whose values feel real. Because when a woman meets a man whose inner world is aligned, she knows she has met someone she cannot replace. So remember this, evolution is the foundation of desirability. Become the man whose life speaks for him. Because nothing is more attractive than alignment you can feel without being told. There comes a moment when a woman realizes that desire alone is not enough. Chemistry alone is not enough. Even the excitement of being wanted is not enough. What becomes truly magnetic is the presence of a man who understands the weight of his influence. A man who knows that everything he does leaves an imprint on your mind, on your emotions, on the way you see yourself. This is the older man who takes responsibility for the energy he brings into your life. And when I say responsibility, I'm not talking about paying bills or showing up with gifts. I'm talking about emotional intelligence at a level where he is aware of how his words echo inside you, how his actions shape your confidence, how his consistency becomes the safe space you learn to breathe in. He knows you're not just a woman living in the present moment. You're a woman carrying memories, self-doubt, unspoken fears, ambitions you sometimes question, and a heart that has been both courageous and wounded. And he approaches all of this with intention, not carelessness. There is something deeply attractive about a man who has mastered himself enough to understand that intimacy is not something you take, it's something you build. He knows that the moment he steps into your life, he is influencing a whole internal world. Your hopes, your insecurities, your sense of worth, and because he recognizes this, he moves with clarity. He does not flirt with your emotions just to feel powerful. He does not promise a future he's not willing to create. He does not give you attention today and vanish tomorrow to protect some illusion of freedom. No, he understands that if he touches a woman's soul in the wrong way, it can take her years to recover from the confusion. And if he touches it in the right way, it can transform her self-image forever. This level of awareness comes from maturity, not age. It comes from a man who has lived enough, reflected enough, failed enough, healed enough, and learned enough to finally understand the responsibility of masculine presence. He knows that intimacy is not a game. He knows that your trust is not cheap. And because of this, he refuses to be the kind of man who damages a woman just because he hasn't dealt with his own wounds. Instead, he becomes the man who elevates her simply by being intentional with the energy he brings. The reason this type of older man is rare is because awareness requires humility. Most people live in reaction, not reflection. But a man who has matured through experience carries a different kind of masculinity, one that has nothing to prove and everything to protect. He knows the truth: a woman does not open her heart because she is weak. She opens it because she feels safe. And safety is the result of consistent, conscious behavior. He is aware that every time he speaks to you, he's either watering your self-esteem or draining it. Every time he looks at you, he's either confirming your value or confusing it. Every time he chooses to stay present, he creates a foundation where your trust feels justified. And trust is the one thing that changes everything. Because once a woman trusts a man, she does not just give him access to her body. She gives him access to her mind, her softness, her ambition, her vulnerability, her truth. An aware man treats that access with reverence. He doesn't misuse it. He doesn't manipulate it. He doesn't play with it. He honors it. That is responsibility. This is the only type of older man worth desiring. A man whose maturity is visible in the way he manages his impact. He doesn't need to be perfect. He just needs to be conscious. He needs to be intentional. He needs to be aware that his presence has the power to either build or break the woman standing in front of him. And a man who understands this chooses to build every single time. So if you want a final thought, here it is: attraction may draw you in, but awareness determines whether you stay. Choose the man who knows his influence and uses it to elevate you, not diminish you. Choose the man who understands that intimacy is not physical access, it's emotional responsibility. And remember this truth: the right man doesn't just enter your life, he enriches it.